Welcome back to the Hayley-Roxanna Crafts channel. In my last video I showed you how to get everything ready for starting your cross stitch project. So in today's video I'm going to start showing you how to do the stitches involved in cross stitch, starting with your full cross stitch. But first I'm going to show you how I represent the full cross stitches on my charts. So on my colour charts, a full cross stitch is shown with the whole square coloured in and the symbol is in the centre of the square. On my black and white charts, the full cross stitch is shown with just the symbol in the centre of the square. So now I've shown you what the full crosses look like on the charts, I need to show you how to actually do a full cross stitch. So I've got a bit of pink thread ready just to show you with, and I've popped the knot in the end of it. Like I said in my last video, some cross stitches really don't like using knots, so in a future video I will go through some other ways that you can anchor your thread at the start, but like I said, I've always used knots and I've never had a problem. So a single cross stitch, I always hold my material just between my index finger and my thumb, and I just have the other fingers just resting on the back like that. As I said before, I don't really like to use hoops or frames to hold my fabric. I'm quite comfortable keeping it in my hands. So to do your cross, you need to come up from the back through one of the holes, pull the thread through and pull really carefully so you don't pull the knots through as well. Okay, like so. Then you need to go down into the top right hand hole of your square, like so, and pull it through. And then you come up in the bottom right hole and pull that through, and then go down into the top left hole, like so, and you've got a cross. Now you might have noticed, if I just pull it back through the bottom left here, when I'm stitching I tend to hold my thumb on the thread as I'm pulling it through, like so, and then just let go at the last second. And I do this just because it helps the thread to lie flat on the fabric to keep it nice and neat. If you find your threads twisting up a little bit, you might just want to hold it up and let it have a little detangle before you carry on stitching, as you don't really want your threads twisting. So if you're doing a few crosses in a row, you can do all the bottom half of the crosses first. So you can come up in the bottom left and then go down the top right. Then you'd come up in what would be the bottom right of this first cross, but it's also the bottom left of the next cross, and then down in the top right again, like so. And then you can just repeat that for however many stitches you want. I'm just going to do the 3 for now, like so. And then you come back the other way to cross them over. So come up in the bottom right, down in the top left, and then for the next square, the bottom right of the square, down in the top left, and then again bottom right. If you find your threads getting a bit close to the extra bit, just pull the needle up your thread a little bit and down there you go. That's 3 stitches done, and then you can just repeat that for however many you need. And then once you've finished, I turn it over, you can see what it looks like on the back. And when I'm finishing off, I just pop my needle under a stitch. I will wind the thread round just the once, and then pull the needle through to secure it, and then that can just be chopped off and you're ready to move on to your next colour or a different part of the chart. Again, for anybody who doesn't like using knots in their cross stitching, I will go through other ways that you can finish it off in a later video. And that is a full cross. There are actually different ways of doing the crosses to how I do them. So if we go through what I do again, I come up in the bottom left corner of my square, and then I go down into the top right. I come up in the bottom right and go down into the top left. Now when my mum cross stitches, she actually will come up in the top left of her squares and then go down to the bottom right, and then come up in the top right and go down into the bottom left, like so. Okay, now as you can see, that actually makes the cross in a slightly different way. So with my crosses, I do the bottom of the cross going left to right, and then the top going right to left. Whereas the way my mum does it, her bottom half of the cross goes from left to right, and then she goes right to left for the top half. Okay, so they're actually crossed over slightly differently. Some people also, when they're doing a few stitches, they might want to go from right to left, whereas I did it left to right. So they may stitch like this. If they were doing more than one at a time, I'll just do two and then come back on it. Like so. Okay, so that gives you a cross like the one that my mum does. Or they might come up like so. Pull my thread through slightly. They might want to come back this way and go top to bottom. And then top to bottom again, like so. And that gives you crosses in the same direction as I stitch. Okay, doesn't matter which way you do your crosses. What is important is that whichever way you decide to do yours, you stick to it. So if your first half goes left to right, it always needs to go left to right. And then if the top half goes right to left, it always needs to go right to left. Okay, this just helps to make your finished piece look a lot neater, a lot tidier. Helps with the way the light shines off the thread when you've got it displayed, to keep it all nice and even and just looking good. The other thing you need to consider when you're doing your full crosses, if you're doing quite a few, so if, say, with the way I work, if I did 3, two, 3, and then I come back on this, cross them back over, like so. Okay, now if the next row I was going to do is below this row, then I'm fine just to go into my bottom left square again and carry on. However, if I was stitching up the chart to do a row above this, if I wanted to go into the bottom left of this square, if I pull that through now, it undoes the last stitch I did. So if I put that back, what I would need to do in this case, in order to make sure my crosses still look the same, is just for this stitch would be to come up, not quite in the hole, up the top right, that's better, and then down into the bottom left, and then I can continue my other stitches in exactly the same way as I did before, going bottom left to top right. Okay, and then I could cross them back. If I was only doing 2 in that row, they can be crossed back like so. Just be careful if you're pulling your needle through a hole that's already got crosses in, that you try not to push it through the threads by mistake. You keep it over nice and neat like so. Okay, so now we know how to do a full cross stitch. If we go back to the chart we were looking at last time, our castle hanging decoration, that we got our fabric and the first thread we were going to use ready for. And if you remember, I said I was going to start with these G's here, which if I turn over, we found on the key was DMC 725, and that we needed 2 strands. And I got all that ready and then counted from the centre of the chart to the starting point here, and I left the thread in that hole ready. So if we look, we can see that we need 3 full stitches in G for this first little row here. After those 3 stitches we change to a different colour, but we're only doing the G at the moment. So let's do those 3 stitches. So I'm up in the bottom left of the first square, down into the top right, and repeat, bottom left to top right, bottom left to top right. Now we need to cross this back over because that's our 3. So we come up bottom right to top left, bottom right to top left, and bottom right to top left. Okay, so now we can look at the next row. So if we look on our chart, we've got 3 full crosses in G again, and then the row after that, our 3rd row, is exactly the same. So now we can stitch both of these. And that's those done. Okay, so you've got the 3 rows with the 3 crosses in. While you're stitching, if you find your thread is getting a little bit tangled, you can just, a bit twisted, just hold, let it dangle, let the needle dangle, and it will untwist. Another thing I will sometimes do, if I just show you on the back, is I will let the needle go all the way down the thread to my material and then pull it back up. And that sometimes helps with getting it a bit untwisted, just to help keep your stitches nice and flat on the front. Okay, so our fourth row, we would be doing 4 full crosses in G. So we can continue with that row when we're ready. And I would keep working in G for the time being. So that's how you do a full cross stitch. Next time we will look at partial stitches that I use in my designs, so your quarter stitch and 3/4 stitch. I will pop some links below to items I have used in this video, including a link to the castle hanging decoration chart. If you've got any questions, pop them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you for watching. Bye.